Greg Andrick here with another Business Freedom Conversation post. So another Black Monday may be around the corner. There's several stories that have popped up today about this because all of the same circumstances have aligned as the same thing in 1987. On October 19, 1987, the Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped 22.6% in one day. Now, since September of 2022, so since September of last year, so now for 13 months, the Fed has been reducing the M2 money supply by $90 billion a month. Folks, they've reduced the money supply by $1 trillion. That's a lot of money. This is the largest reduction in money supply since 1933. That was a banner year, wasn't it? I mean, whenever I hear anything to the same as the 30s, things tighten up, let's say, down there. And this is the same thing, where the money supply has been reduced. We've already had a dramatic sell-off in the bond market. And what happened in 1987 was the same thing. We had a large reduction in the money supply. The rapid large interest rate increases caused the bond market they call it a crunch. And people woke up one day and boom, the stock market went down 22.6%. Now, for you, it may not matter how much the stock market goes down, but that's going to probably usher in a recession. Did I say recession? So there's other stories popping up related to this because almost every time that we've had an extended recession, depression, panic, whatever you want to call it, in the last 150 years, it's been accompanied by a reduction in the money supply. And we are having a sustained reduction in the money supply. If the Fed keeps doing this, it's going to be severe what happens. And when the money supply is reduced, what that means is there isn't enough money for transactions to happen. And a lot of experts are saying that if we have a big crash in the stock market because the bond yields are so incredibly high and have moved. See, when the bond market has a crunch, the yields go up, and now the bond market yields for government bonds. We're not talking about other people's bonds. The government bonds, the ones that supposedly are never going to default, are over 7%. Now, the other stories that are matching this, and I spared you the video. There's a 3-minute video out of Bloomberg, but it's really technical, and the guy's hard to understand because he's from England and all this sort of stuff. But this is what's critical, and this is what is going to impact your business no matter what. I've had stories posted here, and you've heard about the reverse yield curve. Well, when the reverse yield curve turns around and goes back to the traditional method, that is generally when you can count the days to the recession. And that's the story that's up on Bloomberg, is a particular financial advisor, they pinned it almost every time. When that thing turns around and this huge drop in the bond market, increasing the yields, causing the yield curve to go back, is going to be the start of the clock for the recession. And when you pair it with the fact that the Fed has dropped the money supply by $1 trillion, banks are not lending, and all these other things going on, that's when it becomes crunch time, just like with the bonds. So take a look at the stories. You go to Bloomberg and take a look at what the guy's saying if you're that interested. But now's the time to prepare for this, because when that happened in 1987, it caused a large economic ripple that probably lasted for 3 or 4 years. And it took a couple of years to recover from them, or more than a couple. But what's going to happen is you're going to be in these dire straits where everybody's attitude is going to be bad. So prepare for it. And the fact that I don't know if the yield curve has turned yet. When it does, there'll be a lot more stories. I'll bring that to you. But pay attention, because we're coming on to crunch time, and everybody needs to be prepared, because my guess is that by the first of the year, which is only 2 months away, that's when all these things are going to happen. And the drop see, if you have the reverse in the yield curve and the drop in the stock market, it's only days when you're going to end it, and it'll be a recession. That you'll know it's a recession even though they haven't pronounced it, because nobody's buying anything. So anyhow, be prepared. I'll come up with another story on the day that the yield curve does turn around, because if the bond market keeps going where it is, it's going to be, if it hasn't already occurred today. So, Greg Andruch, Business Freedom Conversation. I'll catch you on the next one.